Chapter 12. Sharing the Gift. The sun dipped low in the sky as the airship skimmed across the sea of phantom. Herman clutched the wheel tightly as Windstorm Island appeared on the horizon. Anxiety gnawed at his heart with the thought that nightfall would bring the final transformation to those they sought to save. As the island drew nearer, Lister plainly cleared his throat and approached his sons.
Herman, Gifford, I can't thank you enough for rescuing me from Memoria.
He swallowed hard.
Boys, I need to apologize. I wasn't always there for you. I'm so sorry for everything.
He hesitated, averting his gaze.
There's something else. My time as a werewolf. The things I did. I have much to atone for.
You can't go back and change. Nothing you can do in the future can erase what you've done.
Herman addressed his father with the honest truth.
Miraculously, the Lord's grace can cover it. God is willing to forgive and bless us even though we fall short of living rightly. It is an unmerited gift that brings true freedom and peace to our lives.
I am proud of the man you've become.
Mr. plainly said.
The Lord forgives you, and so do I.
Gifford bowed his head in shame.
Can you also forgive me? I have caused you so much trouble.
I can, and I will.
Herman answered. Gifford sighed.
How many times must you forgive your brother?
In the last couple days, in my heart, I had to forgive you. Let's see.
Herman counted on his fingers.
7 times. In the next couple days, I'll probably have to forgive you another 7 times.
He gave his brother a little smile.
What matters now is saving Windstorm Island.
It's getting dark.
Gifford noted.
Where are we?
Just outside of Westover.
Mr. plainly answered. Soon, they passed over Hope Haven, and Market Valley came into view. The interrupted festival resembled a somber sculpture garden. Herman clenched his fists tight, his heart aching for the people who had become victims of the cursed storm that had swept over the island 3 nights ago.
We need to find a place to land.
Herman said.
I can't find anywhere that is big enough. Every second counts.
Look!
Gifford pointed a plump finger.
I see a clearing.
He said, leaning on the railing of the airship. The vessel touched down hard in an open space. They scrambled out. Market Valley sprawled out like a painting interrupted. Bright streamers hung limply. Stalls were laden with unsold wares, and the townsfolk were still frozen in mid-celebration. Herman breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the stone figures had not yet begun to crumble to dust. There was still hope, still a chance to save them.
Come on!
Herman urged his companions into action.
We need to bring them the living water before time runs out.
They nodded. Determination etched on each face as they prepared to carry out their mission. They could not afford to lose a single moment. Herman surveyed the stone figures around him, his heart heavy with the weight of their fate. Among the frozen faces caught in fear and terror, he spotted the stone form of Dolian, frozen in his finery, cowering under an alcove.
Gifford, give me the jar of living water,
he said, extending his hand to his brother. Gifford hesitated, eyeing Dolian with disdain.
Why should we restore him first? He's just a mean bully.
Herman sighed, understanding his brother's reluctance, but knowing there was no time for considerations.
We don't have the luxury of choosing who is worthy of this free gift of life. Besides,
he added, looking at Dolian's petrified form.
Dolian always wanted to be in charge. Let's put him in charge of restoring the rest of the people.
Well said, son.
Mr. Plainly remarked. With that, he took the jar from Gifford and began pouring the living water over Dolian. As the magical liquid cascaded over the stone figure, Gifford voiced his concern.
How can we be sure we'll have enough living water to save everyone?
No sooner had the words left his lips than the jar miraculously refilled itself. Herman smiled.
Look, Gifford, the living water replenishes itself.
The brothers exchanged excited glances before Herman's gaze fell upon a market stall laden with vases. He gestured towards it, instructing Gifford.
Grab some of those vases. We need more containers for the living water.
Gifford raised an eyebrow, surprised by Herman's request.
But you never approve of stealing.
We will return them when everyone is restored.
Gifford nodded and hurried to the stall, carefully lifting the vases from their display. Meanwhile, Dolian's stone exterior was gradually dissolving under the gentle stream of living water, revealing his familiar features of arrogance mixed with a touch of surprise.
What happened?
He stammered as he regained his senses, confusion clouding his blue eyes as he looked around at the frozen townspeople. When he realized it was Herman who had restored him, an uncharacteristic gratitude washed over him.
Herman, thank you.
Herman offered a small smile, glad to see Dolian alive and well.
Save your thanks. We have work to do.
As Gifford returned with the vases, Herman filled one with the miraculous living water. He handed it to Dolian, placing him in charge of the vital task that lay before them.
Listen, Dolian.
Herman said with unknown authority, looking into his former tormentor's eyes.
We don't know when the stone curse will pass its final judgment. We must act quickly. I'm putting you in charge. You need to find as many people as you can to pour the water on. Tell them to find containers and do the same. This gift of life must be shared with everyone, family, friends, neighbors, and yes, even those who wronged us.
Herman stressed. Dolian nodded, his expression serious as he grasped the importance of his task. Urgency pulsed through them all, driving them to action. As Dolian set off, clutching the precious vase, Herman, Gifford, and their father worked side by side, bringing life back to familiar faces with each splash of the enchanted cure. Leffen ran with her own supply of living water to find and restore her parents. Her bouncy steps were a dance of desperation and hope intertwined. As the water flowed, so too did the bonds between the people of Windstorm Island. They were united in their shared ordeal and newfound appreciation for the delicate gift of life. Families embraced, tears streaming down faces that had been frozen in terror mere moments before. Heartfelt emotions of love and gratitude shone like the stars emerging above. When the living water was administered to the last petrified villager, a hushed silence settled over the crowd. People of Windstorm Island, now free from their stony prison, looked around in confusion and gratitude.
Who do we thank for this miracle?
A voice rang out from the crowd as the townspeople looked around, unsure of whom to direct their gratefulness.
3 cheers for Dolian,
cried a burly blacksmith. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, their eyes turning towards Dolian, who seemed to be the one in charge of the cure's delivery amidst the sea of faces.
Wait!
Dolian shouted, raising his hands to stop the praise coming his way. His cheeks reddened like autumn leaves caught in the sun, and for once he seemed at a loss for words.
It wasn't me.
He stammered, swallowing his pride.
The hero you should be thanking is Herman plainly,
he said, gesturing to the young man who had embarked on a perilous journey to save them all. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, followed by a torrent of murmurs as people turned to look at the unassuming young man. Herman shifted uneasily under the weight of their gazes.
Is it true?
Asked a woman holding her child close, her voice trembling with hope.
Were you really the one who saved us all?
Herman nodded, his chestnut brown hair falling into his eyes as he did so.
It wasn't just me.
He admitted.
My brother Gifford and my friend Leffen are just as responsible.
He said softly, gesturing to his companions of adventure.
But it was the Lord's guidance and blessing that made it possible.
Then we owe you a great debt,
declared the blacksmith, stepping forwards and extending a large hand.
We must reward you for your bravery and our salvation.
Please, there is no need. Well, actually,
Herman hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck.
There is something. I ask only for enough money to pay back Dolian. I owe rent for my family's business being on Stark Landry property.
Dolian's eyes widened, and for a moment, it seemed the prideful bully of old might return. As he looked around at the people he had once tormented, now smiling and embracing one another, something within him changed. His expression softened, and he held up his hand.
You owe nothing,
Dolian said, clasping Herman's hand firmly. He pressed a gold coin into Herman's palm, their fingers intertwining like branches from two different trees finally finding common ground.
And please, forgive me for all the mean things I've done.
Herman locked eyes with Dolian, each acknowledging the other's growth and change.
I forgive you, Dolian, and I ask the Lord to forgive you as well.
From the corner of his eye, Herman caught Gifford leaning close, mischief dancing in his green eyes.
Should we mention the skiff that we borrowed?
Gifford whispered.
It's still in memory.
Perhaps that's a conversation for another day.
Herman suggested quietly, sharing a conspiratorial glance with his brother. As night took hold, the villagers decided to transform their gratitude and relief into a grand celebration. Harvest festival decorations still hung from every corner, despite the storm that had ravaged the town. There was an atmosphere of joy and unity, as neighbors, who had once been divided by fear and mistrust, now held each other close, relishing in their renewed connections. The valley was a tapestry of swirling colors and emotions, a testament to the resilience and love that bound Windstorm Island. As smiles and handshakes were exchanged, Lefwyn returned to Herman, her face aglow with relief. Her parents, Mr. Ron Quirkin with his fiddle and Mrs. Kevy Quirkin with her flute, thanked their daughter.
Your courage kept her Lefwyn safe.
Mr. Quirkin said, clasping Herman's shoulder in gratitude.
We can't thank you enough.
Indeed.
Mrs. Quirkin added,
For every heart you mended, a poem will be written. How can we repay your noble deed? Your valor, a light in our time of need. Without you, we'd remain as stone. But your courage, like a beacon, shone. A daughter, Lefwyn, you saved from despair. In valiant arms, she found solace and care. Humble and brave, your spirit so bright, saving Windstorm Island from stone cold night.
Kathy, come. Let us bring harmony to this joyous occasion.
Mr. Quirkin said to his wife. They stood on a makeshift stage, their instruments poised and ready. The crowd of celebrating people eagerly awaited their performance. Ron lifted his fiddle to his chin, its strings gleaming in the soft glow of the stage lights. Kevy looked at their daughter, Lefwyn, and nodded for her to join them on stage. The melody of their music floated through the air, filling everyone's hearts with a sense of joy and unity. Lefwyn's fingers danced over the holes of her oak flute. Beneath strings of brightly coloured lanterns, couples danced. Laughter filled the air, intermingling with the happy tune. Children ran through the crowd. At every corner, friends and strangers alike raised their cups in toasts.
Wow, Lefwyn's pretty good.
Gifford remarked, nudging his brother.
Kind of cute, too. Hey, maybe her and I could make our own music.
Absolutely not.
Herman answered with sternness in his tone.
Relax. I'm kidding.
Gifford said,
It's obvious you like her. I suppose you were just waiting for the perfect moment to let her know.
He put a hand on Herman's shoulder and looked him in the eye.
There are no perfect moments, brother. Just moments. And they go by so quickly.
The final trills of Mr. Quirkin's fiddle mingled with the last notes of Lefwyn and her mother's flutes. The applause that rippled through the crowd was like soft rain after a long drought, grateful, life-affirming.
Bravo!
Herman exclaimed, clapping heartily, his voice joining the chorus of admiration.
That was truly wonderful.
As the harvest festival continued in full swing, a murmur spread through the crowd. Excited whispers passed from person to person, and soon everyone was urging Herman to stand on the makeshift stage at the center of the celebration and tell his tale. He could feel the weight of their expectation, their curiosity, and their admiration for the young man who had brought salvation to them all.
You can do it!
Lefwyn encouraged as always.
Don't worry.
Gifford chimed in with a grin.
You faced far worse in the last couple of days.
Taking a deep breath, Herman stepped onto the stage. He looked at the sea of faces before him, then down at his satchel where he normally found comfort. But the satchel was empty. He hesitated, remembering how he used to hide behind marionette puppets, allowing them to act and speak on his behalf. Surrounded by those he loved, those who had been saved, Herman knew he couldn't retreat into the shadows any longer.
Good evening, everyone.
He began, his voice strong and clear despite the tremor of nerves that threatened to betray him.
I'm sure you're all wondering how Windstorm Island was saved from the curse.
He paused, searching for the right words to describe the incredible adventure Lefwyn and Gifford had shared on the island of Memoria. A soft smile graced his lips as he recalled their journey, the challenges they faced, and the friendships they forged along the way.
Truth be told, it wasn't just me.
Herman continued, humility evident in his tone.
Without Lefwin's unwavering optimism and without Gifford, we never would have succeeded. We fought enchanted creatures, braved treacherous landscapes, and solved riddles that tested our very souls.
As he spoke, the crowd listened with rapt attention, their eyes shining with wonder and awe. The once shy Herman plainly stood tall, his words painting vivid images of their harrowing journey, bringing the fantastic world of Memoria to life for those gathered before him. With each word, Herman felt a warm surge of confidence growing within him. He looked up, meeting the eyes of the villagers saved that night.
From the moment we set foot on the enchanted island,
Herman continued,
we faced countless perils and challenges. We encountered werewolves, goblins, and even a warlock, but we also discovered friendships along the way. Through it all,
he concluded,
we discovered that even in the darkest of times, hope is never truly lost. It's always there, waiting for us to find it, if only we're willing to take the first step.
A thunderous applause erupted. Herman's cheeks flushed with pride and gratitude. He was no longer the timid young man who hid behind puppets and stories. As the applause died down, he stepped down from the stage, feeling lighter and more alive than he ever had before.
That was amazing!
Lefwin beamed, taking a seat beside him on a hay bale.
See? I knew you could do it! You've come such a long way since we first set out on our adventure.
Thank you, Lefwin. Without you, I couldn't have done it. You have always been there for me, pushing me to be better.
Herman said, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting. With courage coursing through him, he took a deep breath and said,
Lefwin, there's something I've been wanting to tell you for a long time. I like you. I mean, I like you.
Lefwin's cheeks turned a lovely shade of pink, making her freckles stand out like stars in the twilight sky. She didn't pull away from Herman's gaze, though. Instead, she leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper.
I've known that for quite some time, Herman. I was just waiting for you to find the courage to tell me.
The whole world seemed to stand still, as if everyone had turned to stone again. A mixture of relief and happiness washed over Herman as he squeezed Lefwin's hand, their fingers intertwining. From the corner of his eye, he caught sight of his father and the Quirkins, their parental gazes weaving an unspoken tapestry of approval for the new young couple.
What do you think will happen with Blarg, Glitterfleck, and Billbeard? Do you think we'll ever see them again?
Herman asked Lefwin.
I'm not sure. Possibly.
Lefwin mused, her eyes distant as she thought about the magical land they had left behind.
Perhaps together they will find more lake dragons and bring hope to Memoria.
Do you think we will ever return?
Herman asked.
Maybe, one day.
Lefwin replied.
For now, let's focus on the present and the future here in Windstorm Island.
Speaking of the future,
Herman said, his voice filled with hope.
I would love to go on more adventures with you.
Lefwin's eyes shone with happiness as she leaned into Herman, her head resting on his shoulder.
Let's leave the adventuring for storybooks,
she said with uncharacteristic caution.
I'll help you write them.